high school talent show.
Oh yeah. Look at me, I didn't know.
This is like a high school talent show, right?
Howdy, everybody.
Thank you.
Chairman Rinaldi, Vice Chair Parks, delegates and alternates to the largest, most powerful, and most conservative political convention in the country. I come here today with a little news for the media. They're the folks that said Robert Francis O'Rourke would turn Texas purple in 2018, and then that Biden would turn Texas purple in 2020. As you know, we are still red. And I have a little more news. Robert Francis O'Rourke is the guy who lost to Ted Cruz, and then who lost the presidential nomination, and now has been reduced to using tragedies like Uvalde to grandstand for the media and left-wing Twitter trolls. Let's face it, NATO is not turning Texas purple. He's not turning it green or any other color for that matter, because our governor will wipe the floor with him and end his political career once and for all. Aren't you glad we're on the side of conservative Republicans like Greg Abbott, Ted Cruz, and Dan Patrick, rather than with those who want to limit freedom, censor speech, and take our guns?
Like you.
Speaking of our Second Amendment,
Like you.
you know, when tragedy strikes, the left's knee-jerk reaction is to say we should confiscate guns of law-abiding Texans.
That's you.
Beto, to his credit, actually said the quiet part out loud. They're coming for your ARs and your shotguns. I mean, they probably would confiscate your air rifle and your BB gun if they could too.
It's you, Senator.
But here's my guiding principle. Make sure good people have guns and that bad people don't. I'm passionate, as you are, about something called the United States Constitution. I have sworn an oath many times as a judge, as Attorney General, and now as a United States Senator. And every time I swore that I would protect it, and I meant it. That's why I take seriously our constitutional right to keep and bear arms.
You do not, you liar!
What we saw in Uvalde did not reflect the flaw in our Constitution, but the callousness of a human heart. It was pure evil, and we could all see it. I wish there was a way to legislate that we must all love one another. But as long as evil exists, so must the Second Amendment. And if we're going to change anything in this country, it should not be the right of law-abiding Americans to keep and bear arms. That's what I made clear to my fellow senators who approached me asking me to work on mental health and school safety legislation. I said, let's see if we can find a better way of enforcing existing law and keeping guns out of the hands of criminals and the mentally ill. But I will not, under any circumstance, support new restrictions for law-abiding gun owners. That will always be my red line. And despite what some of you may have heard, the framework that we are working on is consistent with that red line.
Liar!
As Fox News recently pointed out, we fought and kept President Biden's gun-grabbing wish list off the table. Democrats pushed for an assault weapons ban. I said no.
giving a speech.
They tried to get a new 3-week
I don't know
mandatory
why
wait
people
period
do it.
for all gun purchases. I said no. Universal background check, magazine bans, licensing requirements, the list goes on and on and on. And I said no, no, 1,000 times no. So you might ask, what is on the table?
I say no.
More mental health resources, more support for our schools, and making sure that violent criminals and the mentally ill cannot buy a firearm. That primarily means enforcing current law. That's what I've heard from many of you here today and this week, and that's what we're working on, nothing more and nothing less. So I would encourage anyone who's passionate about the Second Amendment as I am, and who wants to get accurate information, to check my website, cornyn.senate.gov. And you can then actually read what my positions are, rather than rumor and the Twitterverse. My heart breaks for Uvalde, for families whose little ones will never return home, for teachers killed trying to protect their children, their students. No parent should ever have to fear for the safety of their child at school. And no child should be afraid to go to school. And if there is any lesson we can learn from the recent shootings, it's that America must have a reckoning with our broken mental health system. We have to take these conversations out of the shadows and into the light. We have to look out for one another and help those who, without treatment, may become a threat to themselves and others. Our efforts actually will complement the good work being done by the Texas legislature. Now, President Biden isn't happy that our list does not include his sprawling wish list, which tells me we must be doing something right. And when it comes to the left's efforts to censor speech, consider one test case. Elon Musk says that President Trump should be allowed back on Twitter, and the left loses their ever-loving mind. Yet they allow the Ayatollah of Iran and the Russian intelligence agents on Twitter, but not the former president? That's simply outrageous. It's past time to end the suppression of free speech, the shadow bans, the in-the-tank activism by big tech, and plant the flag for freedom. My friends, that's what I try to do every day on your behalf in Washington, D.C. Now, sometimes my job is pretty simple. Sometimes my job is as simple as saying no. The conservatism that William F. Buckley Jr. described as standing athwart history, yelling stop. And for the record, when it comes to ideas like the Green New Deal, someone needs to yell stop. When it comes to Bernie Sanders' socialized medicine scheme called Medicare for All, someone needs to yell stop. When it comes to canceling college loans on the back of taxpayers and the well-to-do, and walking away from your contractual obligations, someone needs to yell stop. When it comes to not securing our borders and letting the cartels and human traffickers profit on the misery of others, someone needs to yell stop. Okay, I admit, I'm a recovering judge. I'm not that much of a yeller. And I may not be as electrifying as our friend Ted Cruz. But let me tell you something else that I am absolutely passionate about. If we're going to be a society that protects life, that values innocent life, then we must also protect the unborn. And I'm proud to have worked over my entire career to confirm justices to the United States Supreme Court that are likely on the cusp of doing exactly that. If a society is judged by how it treats the most vulnerable, then we need to protect our unborn children. And here's the deal. I consider no job more important right now than stopping Joe Biden's radical judicial nominees. These are the ones that make up the rights and laws as they go along. The ones who rewrite the laws rather than enforcing the laws that Congress has passed. I'm also not too fond of people trying to rewrite history, whether it's in the courts or in our classrooms. Let's stop turning our children into casualties of the culture war. And let's get rid of divisive lunacy like critical race theory. And let's be clear to the corporations who try to appease left-wing agitators. If you go woke, conservative customers will let you go broke. We see what happens when the woke mobs take over our cities. It's not just the protest violence, which is bad enough, it's the protest policies. They actually make things worse. Boneheaded ideas like defunding the police. If you defund the police, you unleash violence. And we see murder rates and violent crime rise across major cities under these broken, weak, and woke policies. So if Democrats think they're coming for Texas, I have some news for them. Republicans will take back our urban centers long before that ever happens. Because no one, Republicans, Democrats, or independents, want to feel unsafe in their homes, in their schools, or their neighborhoods. Oh, by the way, while Democrats play identity politics, we are engaged in idea politics. And if we're going to build on President Trump's momentum and continue to make inroads in places like the Rio Grande Valley and all across Texas, we need to work together in November. And Joe Biden makes our job easier every day. If you can't afford to buy a new car, or even a used car for that matter, if you can't afford to fill up your gas tank, let alone find baby formula, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to elect new leadership. In 2022, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are getting a pink slip. America is voting Republican. And in 2024, we're voting out Biden and Harris, too. America is ready to turn the page on inflation, on the war on American energy, and on the weakness and the wokeness. And Texas Republicans, as always, are ready to lead the way. So join me in making history and saying no to the Green New Deal, to the woke mobs rewriting our history, to inflation, to appeasement of tyrants and dictators. So let's take our country back, starting with Congress in November. Thank you, God bless you, and may God continue to bless our great state of Texas.